Welcome to Busting Roadblocks, the podcast where we break down the biggest roadblocks in business and help to clear a path to success. I'm Janet Charteris, your host and the founder of JC Consultancy, where we help businesses remove barriers and unlock their full potential. Today I want to talk about a story early in my career that taught me a powerful lesson about decision making in organisations. Sometimes the roadblock isn't the lack of information, it's what happens when that information is presented. Early in my career, I was working as a contractor for a multinational cooperative. My role sat within marketing and headed up the product innovation. We were responsible for developing new products to bring to market. This is a very structured environment, lots of process, lots of rigor. Every new product moved through what we would call a stage and gate process. At each gate, you had to test assumptions, build a business case, and decide whether the project should go ahead or not. In theory, it's designed to make sure you only launch products that will succeed. We were developing a product for the chilled juice market, a smoothie. At the time, smoothies were becoming incredibly popular. Consumers were looking for healthier options. They were looking for natural product claims, antioxidants, etc. This is pre-protein push, but definitely a time when sugar was not bad and having lots of fruit was incredibly popular. It tasted great. The nutritional benefits were really strong. And technically, we'd solved the manufacturing and distribution challenges. By the time we reached the stage 3 gate of 4, the product had been tested, engineered, costed, and was essentially ready to go. From a product development perspective, it looked like a success. But part of my role was also looking at the commercial reality. And when I looked closely at the market, something didn't stack up. The smoothie category was becoming incredibly competitive. There were really strong players out there. Price points were being pushed down and margins were incredibly tight. And the premium product we had developed was premium. When I ran the numbers, it became clear that even if we launched successfully, we were unlikely to make money. Now, bearing in mind, this is early in my career, so although I'm looking after this innovation, I'm still relatively junior. So when we sat around in our stage gate 3 discussion, I made the recommendation that we should actually cancel the launch because the product was never going to make money. It wasn't because it was a bad product, but from the start of our development to us getting ready to launch, the market had moved and the competitiveness meant our premium product was going to struggle to do the turnover we needed to warrant the continued investment. I remember presenting the recommendation and the strong response from the general manager, who at this stage would have been 20 years my senior, was very clear: we're launching. And the reason wasn't about the product and it wasn't about the market. It was because the initiative had already been sold internally. So he had sat in enough meetings telling everyone that this was coming and it was going to be the great premium innovation for our company. Expectations had been created. Momentum had been built internally, right? And at that point, stopping felt harder than continuing. So we launched. And exactly what the numbers predicted happened. The product struggled to compete. Margins disappeared, and within 6 months, the product had to be pulled from the shelf. And the business lost money. Now, up to that point, I had always assumed that the role in business is to make money for your shareholders. And as I was quickly learning through my career, that it's a combination of that and egos and reputation and I guess fulfilling promises to a business. Looking back on this wasn't a product roadblock, right? It was a great product, although we could have gone back and value engineered it to being a product that was fit for market costs. It was actually a decision-making roadblock. Sometimes organisations become so committed to a direction that they lose the ability to change course, even when the evidence is right there in front of them. It's a very human problem. People don't want to admit a project might not work. They don't want to walk back on commitments. But the earlier you stop doing something that won't succeed, the cheaper that decision is. And yes, we'd spent money innovating and in product development and creating samples, but we hadn't committed to all of the artwork being rolled out and being printed and having packaging there that we had to write off when we pulled the product. We hadn't committed to the supply chain of bringing all of this product in so that we could make our new product that was also, by the way, unique to this product, so could not be reused elsewhere. And we hadn't committed to the customer that we were definitely going to do this. So as a result of pulling that, we also had a reputation hit. What did this experience teach me? Good decision making isn't just about having a process like a stage and gate system. It's about having the discipline to listen to the information the process produces. Processes can highlight the risk, but leadership has to be willing to act on it. So what's my key takeaway? In business today, I still see this play out. Projects continue because too much time has been invested, too many people are involved, or expectations have already been set. But sometimes the smartest decision is to stop. Stopping isn't failure. It could be good commercial judgment. If you found this podcast valuable, make sure you subscribe and share it with your network. And if you have a business challenge that you'd like me to cover, reach out on LinkedIn or at jcconsultancy.co. I'd love to hear your thoughts. What roadblocks are you facing right now?